Dr. Amanda Wells hadn't slept in 36 hours, but the coffee growing cold on her desk remained untouched. Her eyes were fixed on the holographic display floating above her workstation at NASA's Deep Space Monitoring Division, watching as impossibly faint patterns emerged from the noise of the Kuiper Belt data. "Run it again, HFY," she commanded, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. The AI assistant compiled the last 6 months of deep space readings, transforming seemingly random electromagnetic fluctuations into a devastating reality. A massive fleet, moving with deliberate precision toward the inner solar system. Analysis confirms 99.8% probability of artificial origin, HFY's calm voice announced. Heat signatures suggest approximately 3,000 vessels, average size comparable to Manhattan Island. Amanda leaned back in her chair, her mind racing through the implications. The fleet was practicing active camouflage, bleeding off their heat signatures in a way that would have been undetectable to conventional scanning methods. They would have remained invisible if not for humanity's quantum detection array, a system that appeared to be nothing more than a scattered network of research satellites to outside observers. "What gave them away, HFY?" Amanda asked, though she was already forming her own hypothesis. "Their stealth patterns follow perfect mathematical sequences," the AI responded. "The randomness is too precise." Amanda allowed herself a grim smile. Of course, that would be their weakness. Any sufficiently advanced civilization would evolve toward perfect efficiency, toward patterns that could be predicted and controlled. They wouldn't understand that humanity's greatest strength lay in their embracing of chaos, in their ability to find patterns in noise while generating noise in patterns. She reached for her secure phone, then hesitated. The world's governments would panic when they learned of the invasion fleet. Markets would crash, civil unrest would explode, and humanity's carefully crafted appearance of technological mediocrity would be at risk. But there was another call she needed to make first. "HFY, get me Admiral Martinez at Luna Command. Priority black." The holographic display shifted, showing the grizzled face of James "Mad Dog" Martinez, commander of Earth's hidden fleet. His expression hardened as Amanda transferred the data. "How long?" he asked, not bothering with pleasantries. "At their current velocity, 3 months to Neptune's orbit. But that's not what concerns me, James." Amanda manipulated the display, highlighting the fleet's formation. "Look at their approach vector. It's perfect, too perfect. They're following optimal fuel conservation patterns without a single deviation." Martinez's eyes narrowed as he studied the data. "They have no idea what they're walking into, do they?" "No," Amanda confirmed. "Their entire approach is based on logical efficiency. They're about to fly straight into Operation Hornet's Nest, and they'll never see it coming because they're too perfect, too predictable." "Have you alerted the Defense Council?" Amanda shook her head. "Not yet. I needed you to understand first. When this hits the public channels, there's going to be chaos. We need to make sure it's our kind of chaos." Martinez was quiet for a moment, his military discipline warring with the hint of a predatory grin. "I'll begin warming up the quantum cores. We've got 3 months to turn Earth's orbital debris into the most sophisticated defense grid ever constructed." "And Dr. Wells?" His expression softened slightly. "Get some sleep. You look like hell." The connection terminated, leaving Amanda alone with the holographic display of humanity's approaching visitors. She finally reached for her coffee, grimacing at its coldness but drinking it anyway. Sleep would have to wait. "HFY, begin Operations Protocol 7, and send a message to Lieutenant Turner at Lunar Base Alpha. Tell him it's time to wake up our sleeping giants." As emergency protocols began cycling through Earth's hidden defense networks, Amanda watched the alien fleet's perfect, predictable approach. They had no idea they weren't invading a primitive civilization. They were entering mankind's realm, where chaos itself was humanity's greatest weapon. And they were about to learn why the galaxy's seemingly weakest species had been left alone for so long. Lieutenant Michael Turner watched the holographic display from Lunar Base Alpha's quantum core, his fingers dancing across the haptic interface as he fine-tuned the debris field's movement patterns. What appeared to be random space junk to the approaching Vrak scouts was actually the most sophisticated neural network ever created. Millions of pieces of orbital debris, each containing quantum processors that could communicate and move with microscopic precision. Status update on Scout Group 7, the base's AI announced. They've adjusted course to avoid the primary debris field. Turner smiled. Exactly as predicted. Release pattern Echo 3. On his display, thousands of tiny dots shifted their trajectories by mere millimeters, a movement so subtle it would appear random to any observer. But Turner knew better. Those millimeter adjustments, multiplied across the vast orbital space around Earth, were about to become a deadly net. The first Vrak scout ship didn't even have time to register the danger. A piece of what appeared to be a defunct satellite, moving at precisely calculated velocity, sliced through its sensor array. Seconds later, 2 more debris fragments intersected with its engine housing. The ship's perfect formation wavered. Contact from Fleet Admiral Martinez, the AI announced. Patching through. Lieutenant, Martinez's gruff voice filled the control room. Tell me we're not showing our hand too early. Turner's fingers never stopped moving across the interface. No, sir. We're maintaining the illusion of random collision events. The Vraks are logging these as navigational hazards, exactly as Dr. Wells predicted. Their logical minds can't conceive that we'd weaponize our own orbital waste. You sound pretty confident about that assessment. Because I helped design the quantum AI that's predicting their responses, sir. Turner highlighted a section of the debris field. Watch this. The remaining Vrak scouts had begun evasive maneuvers, their movements following textbook spatial dynamics. But with each random piece of debris they avoided, they were actually being herded into killing zones, areas where the density of weaponized fragments was highest. Beautiful, Martins muttered. How long until they realize it's not random? Their ships have lost 30% of their sensor capability, and they still haven't detected a pattern. The beauty of using chaos as a weapon, sir, is that there is no pattern to detect. Every piece of debris is moving according to quantum probability calculations that change faster than their computers can analyze. Another scout ship's shield flared as 3 separate impacts struck at precisely the same microsecond. The vessel's perfect formation crumbled, its engine sputtering as it tried to compensate for damage it couldn't even properly detect. Lieutenant Turner, a new voice cut in. Dr. Wells. The main fleet has increased speed. They're responding to the scouts' distress calls. Turner's hands flew across the interface, adjusting countless variables. Perfect. The faster they come, the less time they have to analyze what's really happening. Permission to initiate Phase 2. There was a moment of silence as Martinez and Wells conferred on a private channel. Turner used the time to watch another scout ship's attempt to navigate the debris field fail spectacularly. The Vraks were learning, adjusting their shields and trajectories, but it didn't matter. The debris field was learning faster, each impact providing new data for the quantum AI to process and adapt. Permission granted, Martinez finally responded. Light 'em up, son. Turner's fingers pressed down on the haptic interface. Throughout Earth's orbital space, thousands of seemingly dead satellites quietly powered up their quantum cores. What had appeared to be solar panels unfolded to reveal arrays of experimental weaponry, disguised as communication equipment. Initiating Operation Hornet's Nest, Phase 2, Turner announced, allowing himself a grim smile. Let's show our visitors why humanity's mess is humanity's strength. As the remains of the scout fleet retreated in disarray, Turner watched the main Vrax Armada approach. They would arrive expecting to find a primitive civilization, defended by nothing but random orbital clutter. Instead, they would meet humanity's first line of defense, a weapon system so chaotic that its very existence defied logical comprehension. The real battle was about to begin, and Earth's orbital junkyard was ready. Colonel Rebecca Thompson stood in front of the wall of holographic screens in the Pentagon's Cyber Command Center, watching as millions of social media data points coalesced into recognizable patterns. Next to her, Kevin Zero-Day Mitchell slouched in his chair, his fingers flying across 3 different keyboards simultaneously. There, Kevin pointed to a cluster of anomalous data. Nobody tweets about their breakfast with perfect grammar and exactly 60 characters, every single time. Rebecca leaned closer, her eyes narrowing. The Vrax infiltrators were good. They'd studied human behavior extensively, but they'd made the crucial mistake of trying to be too perfect in their impersonation of humanity. "Show me their network connections," she ordered. Kevin pulled up a new visualization. "Check this out, Colonel. Their posts are being uploaded through different IPs, but the timing." He highlighted a series of timestamps. "It's following a Fibonacci sequence. No human bot farm would be that mathematically precise." Rebecca allowed herself a small smile. 3 months ago, she'd faced a military review board that questioned her decision to integrate social media monitoring into Earth's defense network. Now, those same social platforms were becoming humanity's early warning system. "Guardian," she addressed the room's AI, cross-referenced these patterns with Dr. Wells' original Vrax fleet signatures. The AI's response was immediate. "Match confirmed. The infiltrators are using the same base encryption as their ships. Mathematically perfect, but fundamentally predictable." "Got another cluster," Kevin announced, pulling up a new dataset. "They're trying to influence trending topics. Look at the hashtag patterns." Rebecca studied the new information. The Vrax were attempting to create panic by manipulating social media algorithms, but they didn't understand what they were really dealing with. Human social networks weren't just communication platforms. They were the result of decades of controlled chaos, evolved through memes, trends, and the inherently unpredictable nature of human interaction. "Time to spring the trap," she decided. "Kevin, initiate protocol Vavel." Kevin's fingers danced across his keyboards, a grin spreading across his face. "You're really going to hit them with that? It's barely been tested." "Which makes it perfect. They can't prepare for what we haven't even finished designing yet." Across the globe, social media algorithms began to shift. What appeared to be random noise in the network suddenly contained hidden patterns that only human minds, evolved to find meaning in chaos, could navigate. The Vrax infiltrators, attempting to maintain their cover, found themselves caught in a social media landscape that defied their logical analysis. "Look at that." Kevin whistled as data streams showed Vrax communications growing increasingly erratic. Their attempts to maintain human personas are falling apart. They can't handle the cognitive dissonance of trying to appear random while following their base programming for order. Rebecca watched as the infiltrators began making mistakes. Perfect grammar became randomly capitalized posts. Precise character counts gave way to frustrated keyboard smashes. The harder they tried to blend in, the more they stood out to the pattern recognition algorithms that had been learning from human chaos for decades. "Guardian, initiate trace protocols," Rebecca ordered. "Find their physical locations." The AI's response was almost smug. "Already done, Colonel. The infiltrators' attempts to appear human have leaked more data than any traditional surveillance could have gathered. Would you like me to forward their locations to tactical teams?" "Not yet." Rebecca studied the map of identified Vrax positions. "Let them keep trying to understand what's happening. Every attempt they make to process human social behavior is teaching us more about how their minds work." She turned to Kevin, who was still orchestrating the digital chaos with evident enjoyment. "How long until they realize what we've done?" "They won't," he replied confidently. "That's the beauty of it. They're looking for the logic behind human social behavior. They'll never accept that there isn't any. And that's exactly why it works as a defense system." Rebecca nodded, watching as more Vrax infiltrators revealed themselves through their increasingly desperate attempts to maintain order in a system designed for chaos. Earth's first interior defense line wasn't a physical barrier or a weapon. It was humanity's inherent unpredictability, weaponized through the very social networks the Vracs had thought would be their weakness. The real invasion hadn't even begun, and humanity had already turned the aliens' perfect logic against them. Major Emily Meme Queen Davidson sat cross-legged in her command chair at the Cultural Warfare Division, surrounded by screens displaying an endless stream of human content. Her team of digital artists, mimetic warfare specialists, and psychological operations experts worked in controlled chaos around her. "They're broadcasting again," her assistant announced, pulling up the Vracs transmission on the main screen. The alien footage was exactly what they'd expected, a carefully choreographed display of their military might. Planets falling, civilizations surrendering, all presented with clinical precision and mathematical beauty. The Vracs believed they were showcasing their inevitability. Emily saw only their predictability. "Let's show them how Earth responds to threats," she grinned, her fingers flying across her haptic interface. "Initialize Project Bedlam." Across her command center, dozens of specialists began their carefully orchestrated assault. The Vracs' transmission was about to meet humanity's most powerful psychological weapon: their ability to generate meaningful nonsense. "K-pop team, you're up first," Emily commanded. "Give me maximum chaos." The first counterstrike hit the Vracs fleet's communication systems like a digital tsunami. What started as a simple K-pop video began splitting, mutating, combining with other content in ways that defied logical analysis. Boy bands performed mathematically impossible dance moves, their images fracturing into memes that carried subliminal quantum data packets. "They're trying to block the transmission," one of her analysts reported. "Perfect. Hit them with package beta." The next wave was even more devastating. Decades of cat videos, edited and compressed through quantum algorithms, began flooding Vrac systems. Each clip contained fragments of code that exploited their rigid logical protocols. Every attempt to analyze the content forced their AI to try processing the fundamentally unprocessable. Why did humans find cats knocking things off tables so eternally amusing? "Ma'am," her assistant called out, "they're attempting to establish a direct neural link to understand the content." Emily's grin turned predatory. "That's their biggest mistake. Launch the TikTok offensive." Years of human social media trends, compressed into weaponized mimetic packets, poured through the opening the Vracs had created. Their logical minds, attempting to find patterns in human viral content, encountered an endless stream of increasingly absurd challenges, trends, and cultural phenomena. "Status report," she demanded, watching as the Vracs fleet's communications became increasingly erratic. "Their primary AI is attempting to categorize human meme evolution," her head analyst reported with barely contained amusement. "It's created over 3 million classification attempts in the last minute alone. No success." Emily nodded in satisfaction. The Vracs had made the critical error of assuming human culture followed logical progression. They couldn't comprehend that trends like planking, Tide Pod warnings, and dancing sea shanties weren't connected by any rational thread. They were pure human chaos, evolved through millions of random interactions. "Time to end this," she decided. "Deploy the final package." Her team initiated the upload they'd been preparing for months. Every nonsensical trend, every inexplicable viral sensation, every piece of content that had ever made humans ask, "Why did this become popular?" was compressed into a single transmission. But hidden within this chaos was a pattern, one that only human minds, evolved to find meaning in meaninglessness, could navigate. The effect on the Vracs fleet was immediate and devastating. Their communication systems, desperately trying to find logic in the illogical, began to break down. Their AI, attempting to process why humans would watch hours of hydraulic press videos or argue endlessly about dress colors, encountered paradox after paradox. "Incoming transmission from the fleet," her assistant announced, surprise evident in his voice. It's just keyboard smashing." Emily leaned back in her chair, satisfaction written across her face. "That, ladies and gentlemen, is the sound of a logical mind encountering true human chaos. Send them our response." On her command, a final transmission was sent to the Vrax fleet. A single GIF of a keyboard cat, encoded with enough memetic data to keep their analysis systems locked in an eternal loop of trying to understand why humans found it meaningful. "Major Davidson," Dr. Wells' voice came through her comm. "The fleet's coordination is showing signs of strain. Whatever you did." "Don't worry, Dr. Wells," Emily interrupted, watching as the once perfect Vrax formations began to waver. "We just showed them that humanity's greatest weapon isn't our technology. It's our ability to find joy in chaos. They'll never recover from trying to understand why." Dr. Jack Harrison stood in his basement laboratory at MIT, surrounded by what appeared to be ordinary consumer electronics. Smartphones, smart fridges, game consoles, and dozens of other devices lined the walls. To most observers, it looked like a typical product testing facility. They couldn't have been more wrong. "Status update on the dormant protocols," he commanded, his voice steadied despite the weight of the moment. The lab's AI responded immediately, projecting a global map filled with billions of tiny lights. "All systems nominal, Doctor. Quantum signatures are still masked as routine software updates." Jack allowed himself a moment of pride. 20 years of work, hiding the world's most sophisticated defense network inside everyday technology. Every smart device on Earth contained a dormant quantum processor disguised as normal computing architecture. The Vrax were about to learn why humanity's apparent technological stagnation was their greatest deception. "We're receiving the signal from command," the AI announced. "Dr. Wells has authorized activation." Jack placed his hand on the quantum authentication scanner disguised as a smartphone charging pad. "Initialize Project Prometheus. Authorization code: Harrison, Alpha 990. Across the globe, billions of devices simultaneously activated their hidden protocols. Gaming consoles revealed military-grade targeting systems disguised as physics engines. Smart home networks transformed into sensor arrays that could detect Vrax cloaking technology. Even children's toys began broadcasting quantum-encrypted data that the aliens' logical systems couldn't decode. "Sir," his assistant Sarah called from her station, "the Vrax are detecting the power surge. Their scouts are investigating." "Perfect." Jack moved to the central console, watching as the alien vessels approached what they thought were civilian population centers. "Let them get a good look at what they think is our technological limit." The first Vrax scout dove low over Boston, its sensors probing the sea of electronic devices below. Jack could almost imagine their confusion as they scanned what appeared to be primitive technology. Then he gave the command: "Execute Pattern Omega." Every device within range simultaneously unleashed its hidden capabilities. Gaming computers used their graphics processors to generate quantum interference fields. Smart watches coordinated their signals to create electromagnetic pulses disguised as network traffic. Even refrigerators began emitting frequencies that disrupted Vrax scanning systems. "Scout vessels are showing signs of systems failure," Sarah reported, unable to hide her excitement. "They still can't identify the source. They're looking for military installations," Jack explained, watching the chaos unfold on his displays. "They can't comprehend that we turned our entire civilization into a weapon. Every piece of technology they dismissed as primitive is part of the largest distributed defense system ever created." On his screens, he could see the Vrax ships struggling against attacks coming from everywhere and nowhere. Their sensors, designed to detect conventional military threats, were being overwhelmed by what appeared to be civilian background noise. "Sir, we're receiving reports from all major cities," Sarah announced. "The quantum network is fully operational. Defensive grids are forming exactly as simulated." Jack nodded, watching as billions of ordinary devices synchronized their hidden capabilities. The aliens' perfect formations meant nothing when every street corner held dozens of weapons they couldn't even identify as threats. "Message from Dr. Wells," the AI interrupted. "The main fleet is launching their primary assault. They're targeting what they believe are our military bases. Let them waste their ammunition on empty targets, Jack replied, initiating the final phase of his system's activation. Our real defense network is in every home, every office, every pocket on Earth. The displays showed the Vrax fleet preparing for what they thought would be a decisive strike against a primitive civilization. Instead, they were about to engage with technology so advanced it had been hidden in plain sight for decades. Send word to all sectors, Jack commanded, his voice filled with quiet confidence. The hidden arsenal is awakened. Let's show these aliens why humanity's greatest strength isn't our military might. It's our ability to turn every aspect of our civilization into a defense system they never saw coming. Around the world, billions of ordinary devices prepared to reveal their true nature. The Vrax had come expecting to find a primitive species clinging to outdated technology. Instead, they were about to face the most sophisticated planetary defense system ever created, disguised as nothing more than everyday human chaos. General Lisa Blackwood stood in the heart of Project Pandemonium's control center, watching as city grids across the globe transformed into weapons of war. Traffic lights in New York synchronized to create electromagnetic disruption fields. Tokyo's public transportation system generated quantum interference patterns. London's weather control infrastructure, originally built to combat climate change, now produced localized storm systems that shredded Vrax landing craft. Status report on civilian infrastructure conversion, she commanded, her voice carrying across the bustling command center. 78% of urban systems are now weaponized, General, her XO responded. The Vrax are still trying to identify conventional military targets. Lisa allowed herself a grim smile. The aliens were fighting the last war, looking for bases and bunkers while humanity's true strength lay in plain sight. Every piece of infrastructure they'd dismissed as primitive was about to become part of the most sophisticated defense grid ever created. Initialize Phase 2, she ordered. Let's show them why we let them get this close. Across the globe, seemingly ordinary city systems revealed their true nature. Los Angeles traffic cameras began projecting quantum-encrypted targeting data. Chicago's power grid transformed into a massive energy weapon, using the city's own electrical noise as camouflage. Even the subway tunnels, their dimensions precisely calculated years ago, became resonance chambers that disrupted Vrax shield frequencies. "Ma'am," her tactical officer called out, "Dubai's smart city network is online. They're requesting permission to execute Pattern Delta." Granted. Show them what a primitive smart city can do. The entire Dubai skyline came alive with hidden purpose. Every architectural feature, designed over decades to appear decorative, revealed weapon systems disguised as civic infrastructure. The Burj Khalifa, its very shape engineered for this moment, began generating atmospheric disturbances that torn apart Vrax formations. "Incoming transmission from Dr. Wells," her comm officer announced. "The Vrax are adapting their tactics. They're attempting to target our power infrastructure." Lisa's smile widened. "Perfect. Initialize the power grid protocols." What appeared to be a desperate alien strike against Earth's electrical systems instead triggered the next phase of humanity's defense. Power stations across the planet began generating controlled surges, creating a web of electromagnetic energy that the Vrax mistook for system failures. Their ships dove lower, trying to exploit what they saw as vulnerability. "They've taken the bait," Lisa announced. "Execute Operation Thunderstrike." The global power grid, its true capabilities hidden for decades beneath the guise of inefficiency, unleashed its full potential. Every blackout, every surge, every apparent malfunction was precisely calculated to draw the Vrax into prepared killing zones. Reports coming in from all sectors, her XO reported, excitement breaking through his professional demeanor. Moscow's weather control system has trapped 3 carrier groups in a quantum storm. Rio's solar arrays are generating shield-disrupting frequencies. Sydney's harbor defense network, disguised as tide control measures, has created a trap zone that's already claimed 6 capital ships. Lisa moved to the central tactical display, watching as humanity's hidden defenses systematically dismantled the Vrax assault. The aliens' perfect formations meant nothing when every streetlight could become a weapon, every traffic camera a targeting system, every power line a conductor for weapons they couldn't even detect. Message from Admiral Martinez, her comm officer called out. The orbital defense grid is fully synchronized with surface operations. He's asking if you want to show them our final surprise. Lisa checked the tactical display one last time. The Vrax fleet, its perfect order shattered by attacks from what they'd dismissed as primitive infrastructure, was already beginning to falter. Now it was time to show them why humanity had spent centuries appearing technologically stagnant. Send word to all commands, she ordered, her voice carrying the weight of years of preparation. Execute Project Pandemonium's final phase. Let's show these aliens that humanity's greatest weapon isn't our technology. It's our ability to turn their own assumptions against them. Across the Earth, every piece of infrastructure, every system the Vrax had scanned and dismissed, prepared to reveal its true purpose. The aliens had come expecting to find a primitive civilization hiding in hardened bunkers. Instead, they faced a species that had turned their entire world into a weapon, hidden beneath a carefully crafted veneer of technological inadequacy. The real battle was about to begin, and Earth's cities themselves were ready for war. Dr. William Wild Bill Cooper watched the tactical display in his underground gaming center with the same intensity he'd once reserved for raid bosses in Orcs. The difference was that now, instead of coordinating virtual players, he was orchestrating the most sophisticated military deception in human history. The Vrax command ship is analyzing our defense patterns, his AI assistant reported. They've devoted 60% of their processing power to identifying our strategy. Bill laughed, the sound echoing off walls lined with vintage gaming posters and quantum computing arrays disguised as server racks. Let them look. Every pattern they identify is just another trap. On his screens, the Vrax fleet was attempting to counter what they thought were standard military tactics. Their ships moved in perfect formation, responding to each human attack with textbook precision. They still hadn't realized that every mistake in Earth's defense was carefully calculated, every apparent weakness a carefully laid trap. "Sir," one of his analysts called out, "they're attempting to predict our next move using data from their previous conquests." "Of course they are," Bill replied, his fingers dancing across his custom interface. "And that's exactly why they'll fail. Initialize Gaming Protocol Alpha." Across the globe, millions of gaming servers, their true nature hidden beneath years of apparent entertainment purposes, began executing combat algorithms developed through decades of competitive gaming. Every strategy that had evolved in virtual worlds, every unpredictable tactic that had emerged from the chaos of multiplayer battles, was now being deployed against the Vrax fleet. "They're detecting the pattern shift," his AI reported. "Their tactical AI is attempting to adapt." Bill's grin widened. "Show me their prediction matrix." The display shifted, showing the Vrax combat computer's attempts to analyze Earth's defense strategies. Their logical systems were trying desperately to find patterns in what appeared to be chaos, not realizing that the chaos itself was the pattern. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Vrax command ship," his comm officer announced. They're requesting tactical analysis data." "Now that's interesting," Bill mused, studying the alien transmission. "They're not just trying to defeat us. They're trying to understand us. Patch me through to Dr. Wells." Amanda's hologram appeared instantly. "I see it too, Bill. They're starting to realize something's wrong with their basic assumptions. They've spent centuries conquering species that follow logical progression," Bill explained, watching as another Vrax formation fell to seemingly random human counterattacks. "But humanity, we evolved our tactical thinking through chaos. Every video game, every virtual world, every simulated battle created patterns of combat that defy conventional military logic." On his screens, he could see the Vrax fleet's formations beginning to break down. Their ships, programmed with millennia of perfect military doctrine, couldn't adapt to strategies that had emerged from millions of teenagers playing online games. Look at this, he highlighted a section of the tactical display. They're trying to counter what they think is our command structure, but we don't have one, not in any way they can understand. Every gaming server on Earth is contributing to a distributed combat AI that evolves faster than they can analyze. Sir, his AI interrupted. The Vrax tactical computers are showing signs of cascade failure. They're detecting too many contradictory patterns. Bill nodded in satisfaction. They're finally beginning to understand. Humanity didn't advance along a linear technological path. We evolved in chaos, through millions of simultaneous experiments in virtual combat. Every game, every simulation, every seemingly wasteful hour spent in digital worlds was actually preparing us for this moment. The Vrax fleet's perfect formations had completely dissolved now. Their ships moved erratically, trying to counter attacks that followed patterns they couldn't predict because those patterns had emerged from the seemingly random evolution of human gaming culture. Send them our response, Bill commanded, his voice carrying the weight of decades of preparation disguised as play. Let them know that every game we ever created, every virtual battle we ever fought, was actually a training ground for this moment. Show them why humanity's apparent obsession with digital entertainment was our greatest military advancement. Across the Earth, millions of gaming servers revealed their true purpose, unleashing combat algorithms that had evolved through countless virtual battles. The Vrax had come expecting to find a primitive species wasting time on digital entertainment. Instead, they faced a civilization that had turned play itself into the most sophisticated combat training program in history. And they were only now beginning to understand their terrible mistake. Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez stood at her quantum physics station aboard the International Space Station, watching as the Vrax deploy their ultimate weapon. The massive device, designed to impose perfect mathematical order on any system it encountered, began to pulse with energy that bent space-time itself. They're attempting to force order onto chaos, she reported to Dr. Wells, her voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. Exactly as we predicted. Then it's time. Amanda's voice came through clear and sharp. Initialize the terminal. Sarah placed her hand on the quantum interface, feeling the slight buzz of energy as centuries of human preparation came to this final moment. Terminal protocols active. Executing now. Across the solar system, humanity's seemingly chaotic space exploration suddenly revealed its true purpose. Every satellite, every piece of debris, every apparent failure of human spaceflight had been carefully positioned over centuries. The entire solar system was one massive quantum computer, using disorder itself as its processing power. Vrax's weapon is at full power, her AI assistant reported. They're attempting to impose mathematical constants on local space. Sarah smiled. Perfect. Let's show them why we let them bring that weapon here. Execute pattern Omega. The space around Earth transformed. What had appeared to be random orbital debris began moving with impossible precision, creating patterns that existed in multiple quantum states simultaneously. The Vrax weapon, designed to impose order, instead found itself trying to organize a system that thrived on chaos. Their increasing power, Sarah reported, watching as the alien fleet committed fully to their attack. Their weapon is trying to force everything into predictable patterns. Status of the terminal, Dr. Wells asked. Operating exactly as designed. Sarah's fingers flew across her interface, adjusting quantum variables that had been waiting centuries for this moment. Every attempt they make to impose order actually increases our system's processing power. They still don't understand. Chaos is our operating system. The Vrax weapon's energy output reached critical levels. In their desperation to make sense of human defense patterns, they were feeding more and more power into a system designed to transform predictability into chaos. All stations, Sarah broadcast across the human defense network. Prepare for final phase. Show them what humanity's apparent disorganization was really about. Across the solar system, centuries of human space activity revealed its true nature. Failed satellites suddenly activated, their apparent decay actually precise orbital calculations. Space junk transformed into quantum relay nodes. Even human errors in space exploration were revealed as deliberate steps in creating the most sophisticated trap ever devised. Their weapon is starting to destabilize, Sarah's AI reported. The Vrax fleet is detecting the pattern, but they can't comprehend it. On her quantum displays, Sarah watched as understanding finally dawned on the alien fleet. Every primitive satellite, every piece of space debris, every apparent mistake in humanity's reach for the stars had actually been part of a vast plan. The entire solar system was a weapon designed to turn the aliens' own desire for order against them. Message from the Vrax command ship, her comm officer announced. They're requesting immediate withdrawal. Too late, Sarah replied, initiating the final sequence. The terminal is active. Show them why we called it that. The space around the Vrax fleet transformed into a quantum maze of their own making. Every attempt to impose order only created more chaos. Every effort to escape only drew them deeper into patterns they couldn't predict or control. Their perfect formations, their ultimate weapon, their very understanding of how space itself worked, all of it became part of humanity's defense. Dr. Wells, Sarah reported, watching as the mighty Vrax fleet found itself trapped in humanity's realm. The terminal is fully operational. They've learned too late that our chaos wasn't a weakness. It was the most sophisticated weapon ever created. From her station above Earth, Sarah watched as the alien fleet, its perfect order shattered, began its retreat. They had come expecting to find a primitive species barely able to reach their own moon. Instead, they found a civilization that had turned the entire solar system into a weapon, hidden beneath a carefully crafted veneer of chaos and apparent failure. The Vrax had entered mankind's realm, and like every species that had dared to underestimate humanity's apparent disorder, they had reached their terminal destination.